Hey
All
everybody,
right.
welcome to another Sales Leader Council webinar where we share the best practices of high-performing sales managers and leaders from around the world. Today, we'll be discussing the transition from sales manager to sales leader. What's that look like? Is there a difference at all? Our guests are from the company called Objective Management Group, and I'll have them share with you here in just a minute what that means. But we have the CEO, Ben Tagoe, and Steve Yonchak, Director of Products. Hey guys.
Hello.
Shawn, how you doing? Good to be with you.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks for being here. I appreciate that. Ben, do you want to give people just a real quick rundown about what OMG does so they're familiar?
Yeah, of course. So OMG, we are a sales skills assessment company. I kind of half jokingly call us the SATs for salespeople. Uh, Companies use our tests to help them figure out whether the salespeople who they want to hire can and will sell for them, and what are the skills that they're bringing to the job, what are the skills that they have to develop. And they also use our tests with the salespeople who they already have to figure out where do I need to focus on development for Shawn, which is going to be different than the development that I need to focus on for Steve.
Awesome. Awesome. And just a little fun fact, the Sales Collective happens to be your number one distributor of the assessment, right?
No, yeah, we call them partners. You guys, number one partner, 3 years in a row now. Is it going to be four?
Yeah, I'm sure it will be. I'm sure.
Me
So yeah,
too.
we call it the sales DNA. We use it here with every single client to determine their competencies, will to sell, what their DNA is, how their brain works in regards to selling, and then their tactical abilities. What can they actually do when it comes to sales skills? And we use that, to Ben's point, to make sure that, we're not spending time coaching and training you in something that you're really good at already, but instead we're working on the areas where you have the most potential for growth. I appreciate you both being here. Steve, what do you do for the company?
Yeah, thanks, Sean. I'm the director of products. My responsibilities have to do with making sure that the assessment experience and the evaluation experience is great for your candidates and your employees. We focus a lot of energy on statistical validity on the assessments that we have. So there's a lot of work that we do that I assist with that has to do with data science and coordination and making sure that all of the data that goes in and comes out of the assessment is something that we can validate and defend with generally accepted practices. And then on top of that, I am one of the contributors and the director of the platform that delivers this experience to people.
Okay, great. And I'm glad that you got the message that I sent you. Wear your gray shirt, put all your hair off.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
It's good. It's good that everybody knows that we play on the same team, Sean.
that's right. It's like we're wearing a uniform or something. Orlando just came into the chat too, who also is sporting our same haircut. So I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but it is what it is. Appreciate you guys getting here today. And I'm excited to talk about our topic. I head up all sales leadership at the Sales Collective. And what that means is that I essentially work with sales managers and sales leaders to build high performance teams without them hating your guts. And so I spend all my time coaching and training these individuals. And I use a lot of times the sales manager DNA, which is different than the sales person's DNA, and I use that to just help them look for areas of opportunity for them to take their teams to the next level. One of the things that we offer at Sales Collective is called the Sales Leader and Manager Trident, which is a 6-month program where that we send people through and they work exclusively with me, going through some of the best practices that I've collected over 20 plus years, working with great sales leaders like you guys out there. And one of the things we talk about is the difference between a manager and leader. Is there a difference? Are all managers leaders? Should all managers be leaders? Are all leaders managers? And, like, what does that look like? So I would love to hear from our two guests today. That'll be my first question to you. When you think of a manager and a leader, is there a difference? And if so, what is it for you? And I'll throw it to you first, Ben, then I'd love to hear from you, Steve.
Yeah, of course. Spent a lot of time thinking about this, Shawn, as you can imagine, especially in the sales context. Yes, there absolutely is a difference between a manager and a leader. And for me, I think that comes down to a couple things. You got to remember, in sales, a lot of the folks who end up in positions where they get a manager or some kind of leadership title, it's really a battlefield promotion. And it's a
Mhm.
battlefield promotion that ends up going to the salesperson who is the top producer as a reward for their performance, which is, could be fine. But where things go off the rails pretty quickly is no one tells that person who has just been promoted into leadership that their job has fundamentally changed. Your job is no longer to go out and generate your own revenue or to generate your own book. Your job is to go out and replicate yourself for all the people who report to you, which is kind of a big component of what leadership is. And in order to do that job effectively, you have to be able to shift from executing your individual selling skills to executing skills around how you develop the people who work for you. And I know we're going to get into the coaching and the motivating piece a little bit more. I'll just say at a high level, when I think about leadership, it is focusing on that development piece. It's not just doing the administrative parts of management, but it's focusing on the development piece, spending enough time coaching, having actual development conversations, not just deal reviews. And most importantly, it's around your own beliefs about how you show up at work and who you understand yourself to be in the workplace. Do you have beliefs that you are a leader and that your job primarily is to develop salespeople? Or do you have beliefs that I'm a leader in title and on my business card, but at the end of the day, all I'm responsible for is, generating revenue come hell or high water? Well, I know we're going to go into this in a lot more detail, so I'll stop myself there. You can tell.
No, I love it.
I can
I
rant.
want the conversation to be free flowing, so we're all good. Steve, what's your take on it? Manager versus leader, adding to what Ben said.
Adding to what Ben said, for me, the manager role is helping people be successful in execution, helping your team deliver against the promise, and that's measured in quota and sales attainment, especially in the sales organization. Leadership stands a step behind that and makes sure that the team is all heading in the right direction. And you can't do that unless you shift your focus so that you're looking broader, you're not tangled up in day-to-day operational views, and you trust your manager team to get the best out of the team that you have working for you. So what I think is a hallmark of a great leader is somebody who can achieve that perspective, understanding what's going on in the trenches and understanding what's happening in the deal review, but can step back and say, is this really the right direction for the company? Is this bringing the company and our goals forward?
Yeah. Would you say that essentially, because it sounds like you're differentiating between roles, like an org structure, like a leader's like here and then the manager's here, because you're talking about the trenches and then the big picture.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say that even though I'm a manager and I'm here in the org chart, that I still have leadership responsibilities of my sales team?
I think definitely. And I think a lot of teams are looking for their managers to show them the right way to say what are the goals that are important and to say what are the behaviors that we want to manifest. I think, one of the things that we've observed in a lot of the surveys and a lot of the evaluations that we've done is that that's a real gap in many organizations, that the sales manager is as an opportunity to be a powerful coach and a powerful force among the team. That move from manager to leadership means it's more about coaching, even that when you go from the management side, you're more about influencing people and less about directly interacting with particular elements of an opportunity in a pipeline or a deal review or just getting a quote across the quote desk or something like that.
Yeah. In the Trident, we differentiate between the two, between manager and leader, but not as a role or a title. It's our belief that if you're a sales manager, you should be leading that sales team, even if you're not considered the senior sales leader of the organization, that everyone that has a team needs to be demonstrating leadership skills if you want to hit high performance, right? And so the way we define it in the Trident is management is largely around monitoring, measuring, reporting, which is important. We got to do that because we're not a non-for-profit. We're here to make money. Numbers matter, metrics matter, margins matter, all that stuff matters. But I'll be honest with you, most people can be pretty proficient at that with very little effort because, Ben tells me, hey, Shawn, every Monday morning in my inbox, I want these numbers. Here's where you go to get them. And if they're bad, then we're going to talk. It's very reactionary and it's mostly lagging kind of activities. So I can learn to do that pretty easily. We define that monitoring, measuring, reporting, the management. Leadership is a little bit more like fugazi, up in the air, subjective stuff, but the way we define it is helping people get somewhere they could never get on their own. Meaning, if I never worked for Steve, I never worked for Steve as my leader, I would only get to this level. And then Steve took me from here to here, and he was demonstrating leadership by doing that. Then I go work for Ben. Ben takes me to the next level, and the next person I work for takes me to the next level. That's the idea. And that if people stay at the same level when they work for you, you weren't really much of a leader. What do you think of that?
I love that framing. That sounds great.
Good. I love it when the guests agree with me. That makes for a better webinar in my book. So I want to talk about the components of some of these, these high performing sales leaders, the activities, the areas they focus on. So I want to cover coaching. I think that's hot on everybody's mind. I want to talk about motivation. And then I want to talk about the hottest word out there right now, which is in my experience is accountability. So let's start with coaching. We all know coaching is a critical skill. But a statistic reveals that only 9% of sales managers are strong at the core coaching competencies that we're looking for. And if this is such a crucial skill, why are so many people not good at it?
So, Shawn, can I jump in and continue my rant?
That's open. It's open to either one of you.
Let me continue on with my rant. Like
All right.
we started out talking about, a lot of people get kind of battlefield promoted into the manager title, and the expectation from the organization isn't set that your job has changed and the skills that you need to bring to it have changed. And one of the primary skills that you need to now bring to your job as a manager or as a leader is that you need to start coaching. When we survey, because we ask every sales team, this, we ask every sales team we survey, how much time, we ask the salespeople, how much time does your manager spend coaching you? And what we find is about 70% of the teams that we survey, the salespeople say that they are being coached less than once a week, which, you've been doing this a long time. You've been doing this longer than I have. And you know that repetition and reinforcement's the name of the game. If you're being coached less than once a week, you might as well not be coached at all. It's the effectiveness of the conversation is very, very minimal. So why is that happening? I think part of it is because the emphasis, part of it, well, there are a couple of reasons. One is the manager is battlefield promoted, and oftentimes they keep their book of business. And so there's this kind of conflicting goal from the organization of go out and Shawn, great job. Go out and develop these salespeople. Oh, but by the way, that number that you delivered last year, I need you to deliver that number plus another 20%.
Yeah.
And go develop these salespeople.
Yeah.
And
Right.
the team. And the teams. How am I supposed to do that? Are you going to give me an extra, 3 days in the week?
Yeah.
So that's a challenge. The other part of it is, and again, this is on us as, as kind of executive leaders, that we very often get wrong, is we define the sales manager role as how you and Trident define management, which is, I would summarize that as administrative. And we like the administrative, and as a CEO, I am guilty of this. We like the administrative stuff from our managers because it's something that we can easily touch, we can measure, we can hold them accountable to. And so what do we do as CEOs and leaders? We just pile more of it on. And we say, hey, I need a report on this, and I need you to play back the send me a summary of the gong recordings for X, and I need you to have this dashboard, and then this dashboard, and then this dashboard. So this person who used to just sell for us now has to sell for us, has to also help the 4 people who they're now responsible for figure out how they're going to sell, and also has to do like 3 days worth of paper pushing as part of this role of being a manager. It doesn't leave a lot of time in there for them to actually focus on leadership, for them to, as you were saying, Steve was saying, take a step back and have more of a development conversation, even if they wanted to. Okay. So the organization does not give you the time or the structure or the incentives to be a great leader. And then you add on to that, you started out talking about the DNA and the beliefs of the salespeople. Managers have their own beliefs too. And and we see this in a lot of the managers that we survey, that a lot of managers, they don't have beliefs that support coaching or leading. Their beliefs are still very much stuck in, I'm an individual contributor, I'm out for myself, or my salespeople are never going to get it. They're hopeless, and I just got to go in and I can't develop them. I just got to go rescue them. And so you don't have an environment for development or building trust between the manager and the salespeople. You have this kind of command and control structure. So I think those are all things that get in the way of an effective coaching environment, and why we see that only 9% of managers can do it effectively.
Yeah. What role does not having a plan have to do with that? Do you feel that maybe some people would coach more if they had a plan, and that they view coaching as kind of just like giving tips and pointers, and maybe speaking more to style versus a standard, maybe like, hey, I always like to joke around. You got to build some rapport with people, Ben. And so you need to loosen up, man. And, try to joke around a little bit with them first before you get into the presentation. Like, is that a lot of their idea of coaching? Do you think they can benefit from a framework and a plan for coaching instead of winging it? What do you guys think?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Now I'll let Steve jump in here too, but I think they absolutely can benefit from a plan, because you need development of any person, of any skill. You need some kind of blueprint or some kind of architecture that tells you, we're going to start here, 30 days from there we're going to be here, and this is the place where we expect to end up. And you need that, because if you're deviating or you're getting off track, everyone can have an understanding of that, both you as the coach and as the salesperson, as the person who's receiving the coaching. Without that, it's just, as the kids would say, it's really just vibes. It's just, hey, when back in the day when I was selling, this is what worked for me, so it's what's going to work for you. And how often does that apply in any context, whether it's sports or parenting or some professional development? What worked for you and made you successful is not necessarily going to be what translates for the people you report to. So just relying on that, which is unfortunately what a lot of tenured managers out there are doing, just relying on that is not going to help your people be successful.
Steve, additional thoughts?
Yeah, I want to pick up on a thread that Ben alluded to earlier, where he was talking about time and how much time the manager commitment requires. What I think the benefit of the plan is it makes it easier to carve off a more effective period of time to do the coaching. It reduces the friction, and if it prevents that deer in the headlights moment from the manager who says, oh my goodness, I'm going to walk into a coaching session right now and I'm not prepared. Having a plan makes it easier for them to be prepared, to have a good and effective coaching session, gives them more demonstrable outcomes to get to, and it helps them manage time, because they're not investing cognitive energy in figuring out, how am I going to do this coaching session? It leads them to that point more quickly where they can get to effective coaching more quickly. And I think that cascades all the way up to the leadership side as well, that if leaders have coaching plans for their managers, the same thing is happening. I don't need to go in and re-engineer my coaching cadence every single meeting that I have. Got a plan, it's structured, I know what to expect, and I know what goal I'm trying to get to. And the people in this context that Ben and I are serving, they're very goal oriented. They understand these things. So the concept of a plan fits nicely with them.
Well, and it adds value, doesn't it? So that the participant, the seller that's getting the coaching, I think they come away from that conversation, they have a lot more value than if we did just wing it, right? And they can tell that their leader put time into this, that there's a structure here, that I'm going to walk away with, okay, this is what we're trying to do. Here's 3 things you need to pay attention to when we're doing it. Here's some pitfalls you need to watch out for. Let's practice it together. Like, just any kind of coaching framework whatsoever, it just adds value. So I think they start to look forward to the coaching more instead of just going, oh, I just got to tolerate this coaching for a little bit and then get back to selling. So to summarize, it's really about the supportive beliefs that I, as a manager, believe that coaching is important, first of all, and that that's part of my job, which I speak to sales managers all the time that have forgotten that coaching is one of the most important things that they do. And you're right, they are out there selling, being Superman sellers, flying in at the last minute, saving the deals, or just putting out fires every day and feel like that makes them a good manager. But I have to believe that's important. But then I also have to have the capacity to do it, meaning it's irresponsible for senior leadership to expect me to be a sales manager and the top performing rep at the same time and still carry a number as big as I had before. And in my opinion, carry any number beyond my team number. But
Hmm.
we'll take what we can get. And so it's a capacity issue, and then it's a coaching skill issue, like having a framework, having a plan. All these things are kind of the difference between a mediocre manager versus an elite sales leader in this coaching sphere. Any agreement or disagreement with that? Does that kind of sum up what we've been talking about?
I think you summed that up perfectly.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And it tracks with data, Sean. I mean,
Oh,
this is what we aren't just guessing, we aren't just, postulating here. We've got
yeah.
data that tells us that this is what happens in successful organizations.
Yeah, that's one of the things I love about the DNA is, you're measuring folks against world-class sales organizations. We're not going against like a median average, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. But it's not like, oh, I'm just above average, I'm below average. Like, no, we're saying here's the standard, here's how you measure up, to those individuals. I think that's awesome because that should be the goal, right? Is I want to be world class. I don't want to just be
Absolutely.
a little bit above average.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's talk about motivation. I remember back in the day when we used to do live training sessions, all the time, and I was on an airplane training 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. I can't even imagine like that people could tolerate that. But now we're in the Zoom world, where it's like 45 minutes, people are like boring. Um, but I remember the number one question I would get at the end of my sessions is, Shawn, how do I motivate my team? How do I get my team motivated? And I started looking into that because I was getting it so often, and I started to feel bad because I was just giving them the trope of like, well, you got to have an open door policy and they got to trust you, and that, and it just didn't really seem to move the needle. And so I started studying motivation. I would love to hear from you guys, your perspective, this whole idea of motivation. I know in DNA we talk about intrinsic, extrinsic, and altruistic. Can you hit those real quick for anybody that doesn't know what those are? Steve, you want to take a stab at that?
Yeah, I mean, I think they kind of say on the surface what they are. Intrinsic motivation is coming from I want to do a good job. Nobody wants to go to work and not do a job that they're good at. So what are the factors that make you feel like at the end of the day you've done a great job? The extrinsic motivators are a measurement that comes from something material or something that I can't generate on my own. Sometimes it's money, but sometimes it's recognition, it's self-esteem, it's somebody who's told me out loud that you've done a good job or that we appreciate the work that you've done. So when we look at those motivators, it's usually a combination of them, and it's not usually a one size fits all blend. It's usually
Mhm.
something that's unique to each person. And one of the challenges of a leader is to find out what is the secret sauce? What are the chemicals that go into a good mixture of intrinsic and extrinsic motivators?
How about
Ben, how would
altruistic?
yeah,
That's one that gets me.
yeah. And
Yeah.
and not yeah, go ahead, Ben.
Oh, yeah. I was just going to jump in quickly for altruistic. Altruistic is basically, hey, I want to serve other people. I want to help or I want to help or benefit other people through the work that I'm doing.
Okay, got it, got it. So would you say that when I'll just put it this way instead of asking you a leading question like this, we differentiate between motivation and inspiration. And I think sales managers and sales leaders have been told throughout time that their job is to motivate their team. It sounds like what you all are saying is like it's more your job to understand what motivates your team, not to try to create motivation inside of your team, because it's kind of, I mean, it's a little arrogant really to think that I can get you motivated, Ben, better than you can motivate yourself or get in touch with your internal sources of self-motivation, right? But it's really about understanding. Is that my correct understanding of the DNA, that it's about tapping into what motivates them versus how good are you at, giving rah-rah speeches on Friday afternoon at the end of the quarter?
Yeah, it's exactly right, Shawn. You're not you can tap into the well, but you're not going to fill it up. You can help
Mhm.
them understand how to get there, but you're not going to be the one who creates the motivation, as you said.
Yeah, and I mean it's all good and fine, the hype stuff. If you're into that, I call that inspiration. It's a temporary feeling where you imagine doing something great, whereas motivation is a sustained drive that comes from inside of us to actually achieve something great. And I think when all of us look at our personal lives, our professional lives, and we look at the things we're most proud of, those are things that ultimately we had to dig down deep inside of ourselves to get those done. You might have had a great coach, a great boss, a great team, a great spouse, whatever supporting you. But the things we're most proud of in life are a direct result of our internal source of self motivation. It's not somebody else, going, you can do it, Ben. Come on. That's not going to be enough.
I totally agree. The rah-rah speeches have very limited effect. It's kind of a sugar rush, a cotton candy effect, I would
Yeah.
call it. And there are some other common motivators that I would toss in there as well, Shawn, and maybe
Yeah.
people
Let's
would
hear it.
disagree with this, but I think the short term the spiff
Hmm.
um, can be effective if you have if you have a team or people on your team who are highly extrinsically motivated by financial outcomes. Spiff all day. That's fantastic. But what our data shows is that only about 25% of salespeople have extrinsic motivation style. So if you're gonna, if you're gonna provide a monetary incentive for people when 3/4 of them aren't really driven by that, you're kind of just tossing good money after bad, and you're not going to get the result that you're trying to motivate them to as well. So I always kind of, you know, I caution the folks that we work with. Make sure you understand the motivational style of the team before you start just pulling levers and sending out bags of money or the competition or whatever else.
Okay. Well, one quick question on that note then. So I think we all get how to tap into someone's extrinsic motivation. How do I tap into someone's intrinsic motivation or altruistic motivation? Like, what can I do as a leader to tap into those? Because those feel a lot more subjective. I can give you $100 and that's easy to measure, right? But how do I make you feel like you're
Wow.
mastering your craft?
Oh, so that's a big question, Shawn. If I had that question really dialed in, I would be, I'd be kind of at another level. But I'll share maybe some thought starters, or things that I have seen work well that I am now in my own leadership trying to put into practice. Intrinsic motivation, um, helping this person build awareness, recognizing their mastery and helping them to build awareness of their mastery. One way you can do that is a little bit of playing the dummy. So if there's someone on my team who's intrinsically motivated and who's really kind of doing a great job of building out their knowledge and their skill set, um, you know, identifying them as the SME, the subject matter expert, or even
Mm.
going to them and saying, "Hey, I've been trying to figure this out. I don't get how this works. And I know that you spent a lot of time here. Can you help me with it?" And then when they help you, they're like, "Wow, that's amazing. I never would have gotten there by myself. You really understand this. You really know your craft." And just, I think Steve and I actually spent a lot of time talking about a very simple training framework of teach one, do one. Now I'm gonna Steve, what's the terminology? Because I just messed
It's
that up.
it's read one, teach one, do one. I think the read one, there's an information piece at the front. Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh,
That's it. Yeah. Read one, see one, teach one.
yeah.
And the teach one piece of it, for someone who's intrinsically motivated, giving them the opportunity
Mhm.
for the teach one piece of like, all right, now you're gonna do this. And like, wow, I'm so good at this that not only do I understand it, but I can help someone else understand it.
Yeah.
can be a real spike for them. And then as far as altruistic motivation, I think storytelling can be a very powerful piece for that of, hey, here's the you help this person and here is the impact that your assistance had on their outcome. Whether that's customer service or customer success of, hey, your ability to help this person unlocked um, revenue or unlocked an outcome that they could not have gotten without your help, and just spotlighting that for them, I think can be a very powerful motivator for folks that are altruistically motivated.
Yeah, I'll add on to that, Bill. A lot of, I'm sorry, Ben. What I see as a real opportunity for many leaders um, is to is to broadcast that, is to share that observation with people around the person who's shown the action. I think that recognition reinforces the behavior because it brings the peers into it. So it helps other people make that person feel good for practicing the behavior, and it also helps model the behavior for the people around him that might be looking for a way to demonstrate that intrinsic motivation.
Yeah, I'll riff on that just a little bit more. That's what Steve just mentioned is this really powerful psychological framework that's been studied in influencing. Um,
Mhm.
and actually, the book Influence talks about one of the most powerful ways to influence somebody is through recognizing them or assigning them a reputation. Either you do that directly or creating a culture where other people in the organization assign them a reputation. And sometimes it doesn't even have to be a deserved reputation, but then that person, feels kind of an expectation that they then have to live up to it. So,
Yeah.
so if you have someone who's intrinsically motivated, is looking for this level of mastery, and you have other folks on the team saying, Shawn, you're the subject matter expert here, man. You understand this stuff better than any one of us
Mhm.
ever could. Now all of a sudden you feel good, you feel warm and fuzzy,
Yeah.
but you're also like, hey, I'm the guy who's supposed to know this. I got to keep figuring it out.
Yeah.
And it creates kind of a nice self-drive effect, reinforcing effect.
Yeah. You start to take that on. Yeah. One thing I'll say just to close up this topic, and we'll talk about accountability in the last few minutes we have together, is that I always get people say, okay, Shawn, so if my job as a sales manager is not to motivate my team, and you say it's just to understand their motivators, then like what else am I doing beyond that? Because I can understand their motivators doesn't mean that changes their performance. And so what I say is your job is not to motivate the team. Your job is to create an environment on your team where self-motivation is expected, it's incentivized, it's encouraged, supported. They have all the tools, the resources, literally like create an environment where they have everything that they need to be successful. And then they're over here and all they got to do is, just add water to
Mm-hmm.
this environment that you created. And that water is their self-motivation. So you give them a place to invest their self-motivation and they get the ROI on that because you've created this environment that's so rich and ready to give them a return. Let's transition now to number 3 on our list, which is accountability. And so I just hear the people talking about this all the time. Of course, you hear about holding people accountable. And hey, I'm having trouble holding my people accountable. You hear a lot of senior leaders say, my manager doesn't hold their salespeople accountable. And I started thinking about this. I with my wife, it was interesting. I used to grab her and give her a hug, and then as a joke, she's kind of claustrophobic, and as a joke, I would just keep hugging her. And she wanted to she gave me the pat pat, which means we're done hugging, right? But I would ignore it. I wouldn't pay attention. I'd be like, baby, I love you so much. I mean, like, almost can't let go of you. I love you so much. And I'm not going to let go of you. And then she'd start freaking out, right? Let me go, let me go. I kind of feel like that when I think of holding people accountable. Like the people don't really want to be held accountable. I don't like that imagery of like, I'm going to hold you accountable. I really want someone to offer their accountability to me as a leader because they feel like, hey, you're going to help me get somewhere I could never get on my own. Right. And so understanding what makes somebody want to offer their accountability to us instead of saying, how can I hold them accountable, tighter where they really can't get away? Because I think up until this point, when we talk about holding people accountable, there's nothing we can do to make somebody accountable short of coercion, scaring them, fear, firing them, right? Other than that, we really can't make them dial 100 times that day or send 1,000 emails or, handle the objection the exact way we want them to. We can't make them do that other than through coercion. So I said all that to say, what is your take on accountability? What does the DNA say about accountability? Share with us your perspective from a statistical viewpoint.
Yeah, sure. I'll take a stab at it. So, I first of all, I absolutely agree with you. I think accountability is you want the people around you to offer it up. I think there's very limited effectiveness in insisting or kind of command and control accountability. Um, I think, not I think, what we see is that in the best practice is that accountability really starts from before the person even starts in the role. And it starts with how you define what success is going to look like in the job and what are the behaviors that you expect from them, what are the outcomes that you expect to see. And the reason why you want to start with that, and this falls into the job description and onboarding and the coaching plan and everything else, is because you want the person you're working with to understand what good looks like at every stage of their role, at 30 days in, 60 days in, 90 days in, 2 years in, when they're fully ramped or whatever else it is. And that creates kind of a common ground for you to have a conversation about, hey, Shawn, remember when you took this job and we said up front that 60 days in, this is what we expected to see. It was going to be 100 dials a day or whatever. And hey, it looks like there's only 80 dials going on. So let's have a conversation about that. What's going on? Because you're not meeting the standard that we agreed to. So everything's out in the open and
Yeah.
it's set up front. I think the other piece of that is what you started this conversation with, Shawn. It's around the coaching or the development plan. And maybe this is a little aspirational or a little pie in the sky, but I would argue that um, your coaching plan is super effective.
Uh-oh, did we lose Ben, Steve?
Oh, we might have.
He was about to give us the
It was
secret.
it was
You guys
it
still
was
have me?
the big payoff right there.
Oh, you're
Are you
back,
back, Ben?
Ben. We lost you for a second. You're like, your coaching plan's effective when, and then it's
We
like,
were
That
all
was
on the edge of our seats.
this
that
is
was
quite
all
the
planned.
cliffhanger. Nice
Got to keep you
job,
guys
Ben.
waiting. Yeah.
Okay,
Look,
come back to that.
the plan is effective when the salespeople start to self-report on their own behaviors. So
Yes,
when it's not you, Shawn, the manager, saying, "Where are my 100 dials?"
we lost him again. I think I know where he's going, though. This is back to that offering the accountability we were talking about, Steve,
Mhm.
right? When they start to self-report, like you said. What's your take on it? While we're waiting for Ben to come back to us.
So, one of the things I was struck by draws back on our previous segment when we were talking about motivation, that giving somebody something to be accountable for that's linked to their intrinsic motivation, to their sense of
Mm,
altruism. What are you giving to the organization? Are you helping other people be successful? Are you helping our customers be successful? Those drivers are
mhm.
at least as powerful and probably more powerful than the threats and the financial rewards, the carrots and the sticks you might normally offer. So I think there's a really interesting strategy that emerges when you start to consider what is my team, what is their altruistic drivers, and how do I link the behavior that I want them to do, that I want them to own accountability for, how do I link it to those drivers? And I think that's an interesting opportunity that presents us as leaders.
Mhm. Great. Ben, do you want to finish your thought now that you're back with us?
I'll just quickly finish my thought. I apologize for the
It's all right.
poor connection issue. Which is modeling what you want accountability to look like as a manager or a leader. So it's not just holding yourself up as better than, but all of us have our own metrics and behaviors that we need to hold ourselves accountable to, and providing some transparency. And when you don't meet the bar, raising your hand and saying, "Hey, listen, I did not meet the bar this time. I own that, and
Mm.
this is what I am going to do in order to make sure that that doesn't happen again, so that the people who look to you understand that, one, it's expected that you're going to own your behaviors, and two, it's a safe space to do that. As long as you're not doing it consistently.
Yeah, and I'll add to that too. When I have leaders come to me and say, "Hey, I'm having trouble holding my team accountable," or they won't often take the responsibility themselves. They'll just say, "My team isn't accountable. My salespeople aren't accountable." And the first question I ask them is, I say, "Accountable to what?"
Mm-hmm.
And you would be shocked. I mean, I don't have all the data like you guys have, right? So this is just anecdotal evidence I'm providing here. But you would be shocked how many of them say, well, to selling, right? Like, and so the whole standard that they're aspiring to and they're trying to hold people accountable to is like hustle, grind, sell more, do better, right? Like crush your number. But it's not even that specific sometimes. Like some of these teams don't even have a number that they're aiming for. And the great sales training, godfather Zig Ziglar used to say, if you aim for nothing, you'll hit it every time. And I really agree with him. You're too young to know who that is, probably, Ben, but
I know. I read the
Zig is?
greats.
Okay, all right. Just making sure. I didn't know if that was an ancient reference or not. But so one of the things we do in the Trident, we work with clients to get really specific about what our expectations are of them so that they have targets and things that they're aiming for. It doesn't mean that they're fired or in big trouble if they don't hit them, but we do want to have a destination in mind. And so we start all the way with working with the leader as what's your 3 to 5 year vision for your team? Where do you want to be in 3 to 5 years with this team? What's it going to look like? What's the mission? What are the things that we need to do, the actions we need to take to arrive at the vision? And then the values and what way are we going to execute the mission to arrive at the vision? Is it by any means possible? Are we willing to lie, cheat, and steal to get there? Or do we want to do it with integrity, self-motivation, ethics, creativity, whatever, right? So we start off with that, but then from there we say, okay, now what does that mean for Steve in Q3, week 2, of September on a Wednesday? How does he fit into this big, cool little thing you did with your sales leader coach, right? Like what does that mean to me on the front lines? Because you're going to try to hold me accountable. And so we work the math backwards, right? And we say, here's our annual number. We divide it in quarters, whatever makes sense as far as their sales process and how long or short it is, how transactional it is, or more of an enterprise motion or whatever. But I just really challenge them to get specific about what they're looking for and what the standard is for their team and what it means to be in good standing on that team
Love that.
and describing that so that people can then offer their accountability. They can opt in and say, yes, this is a team I want to be part of. I want to be a Navy SEAL. So yes, you can dunk me in the ocean 1,000 times and I'll carry this telephone pole over my head. And I'm down for all the stuff that you want me to do because I want to be a Navy SEAL, or I'm down to do all this stuff that you're saying. And it's very descriptive. It's very clear to me what I'm getting signed up for here on this sales team because you've got it all spelled out about what it means to be a great salesperson on your team. And so we challenge them to do that. I think when you do that, the great people say, boom, I want to be part of that. And they offer their accountability. They opt in with their accountability. And the people that don't say, no, thank you. And you're like, that's cool. You're not a bad person, but maybe you want to work somewhere else. And they say, yeah, I would rather work somewhere else. Peace out. And it starts to work for people. And it's less about how do I hold them accountable and more about how are we getting closer and closer to, the vision we all want to get together. All right, cool. So we covered a lot of ground today, but the gist of it was, I think we all can all agree that the transition from manager to leader, that there definitely is one. There's a difference, whether it's in just the title or whether it's in, hey, I'm a sales manager. I'm on the same team in the same role, but now I want to be a leader of this team and not just a manager of this team. And what are the things I need to do? You talked about coaching, you talked about motivation, talked about accountability. Final thoughts in regards to how OMG helps people go from manager to leader.
Ooh, Steve, do you want to share and then I can wrap up?
Well, okay. So I apply a data lens to a lot of my work. So for me, it's mostly you can't manage what you can't measure. So, you know, what OMG specific offering is about, how do I identify the behaviors that people have, and then how do we help through our partners, help them create experiences with their clients to generate the behaviors that start to manifest the right behaviors, the right expressions of competency. So from my point of view, it always starts with data. You measure what people have, you start to try to quantify in what the leadership role is going to require, and you start to track paths, transition plans that, and coaching is part of that help them grow into the role that they need to grow into. Ben, I'm sure you have a broader range than that, or
I
broader
think
lens than that.
I think you captured it well. I would say, look, we talked about you need a plan, you need a coaching plan. Your managers, they need their own leadership plan. I would argue too, and the assessment gives you the data to figure out what that plan where that plan starts. Not everyone's plan is going to look the same. Shawn as a leader, his plan is going to look different than Steve as leader, which is going to look different than Ben as a leader. So let's come up with a plan that is most relevant to our individual strengths and weaknesses, and let's build on it from there. And the OMG assessment gives you a great starting point for that.
Awesome, guys. Well, thank you. That's all the time we have for today. Once again, I want to thank Ben and Steve, both of you, for being here. Ben, where can people learn more about OMG?
Just come to www.objectivemanagement.com, or reach out to one of our fantastic partners. Like you mentioned, the Sales Collective is #1 partner 3 years in a row. I'm sure there's going to be a fourth. Reach out to any one of our partners. The folks at Sales Collective are fantastic, and you'll be in great hands.
Absolutely. We'll take care of you. Of course, I want to thank all of you for spending your time investing in yourself as a sales manager and leader. If you want to learn more about the sales manager DNA or individual sales DNA, interested in how to take your sales team to the next level, check us out at thesalescollective.com. We'll get you hooked up. Until next time, I'm Shawn Buxton. We'll see you in the next Sales Leader Council. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys.